Say what?
Looks like it's going to rain outside, so we'll see how this thing goes. It's pretty humid too, but I wanted to get out and do some riding. I've tried figuring out this audio and it's been driving me crazy. I had it placed once before in my old helmet and it came out really well. For some reason, I've tried like 4 different microphones. I've tried like 3 different Bluetooth microphones, and it was driving me crazy because none of the sound was coming out. And so now what it was is it ended up not being the microphone, but it ended up being the actual software app that I was using on my phone to capture the audio. Everybody loves crime stories, mystery stories, unsolved mysteries. And then, this is the way when I'm driving around, we can talk about different crime stories, and later on maybe there's always crime stories to talk about, right? So we'll see how this thing goes, and I think it's going to go really well. I want to kudos to my wife for sparking this idea to me. I think it's really something that's going to be really interesting. What I was really thinking is about doing a true crime series while I'm motovlogging, and I'll talk about a true crime case. The one that I will talk about today is pretty current. It just happened 2 days ago on the 5th of November on a Thursday. And I just thought it would be really neat to do this because everybody likes true crime stuff. They like, unsolved mysteries. First of all, what is a crime? Well, simply put, a crime is an offense that merits some sort of punishment, right? Usually by a way of some sort of a fine or being imprisoned. Which leads us to our second question. Why do people commit crime? Well, the causes of crime are extremely complex. For example, you have poverty, parent neglect, low self-esteem, alcohol abuse, or drug abuse. All these can be connected to why people want to break the law. Well, some are just at greater risk of becoming offenders because of mainly the circumstances into which they are born into. I mean, if we as human beings can somehow control or fix these factors, you think crime would just simply go away? I mean, throughout history of humankind, we, as a society, try to fix these factors and triggers. In the end, though, it's simply human nature to always want to harm, kill, lust, envy, or steal. It's all part of our DNA. And as long as humankind exists, crime will always coincide as well. With that being said, all of the crime stories I will talk about from here on in will be from what I researched through news articles, police interviews, and court hearings. These stories will be from fact that I find through many resources throughout the internet. I will have many personal opinions throughout my crime stories. They will be my judgments, my viewpoints, or my statements that are certainly not conclusive, rather than facts that come from true statements. The stories I may be talking about will be sensitive to some of you viewers, or they may bring up some type of personal relationship to these stories that can be very painful or disagreeable for some of you. I am just simply telling true stories, and in no way do I want to cause any uneasiness to my subscribers. These are just stories, which are meant for simple discussion, and in no way am I promoting what I talk about. With that, let's begin with our first story. 2 days ago, a 32-year-old woman named Alyssa Dayvault from North Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, was finally convicted of killing not just one, but 2 newborn babies on 2 separate calendar dates and years. In November 2017, Alyssa caused the death of a newborn female child in her apartment in North Myrtle Beach. Alyssa finally admitted in court to giving birth to a newborn female at her apartment, and she said during the trial that the baby was born alive and took multiple breaths during the birth. Then again, in December of 2018, Alyssa caused the death of a newborn male child at the same apartment in North Myrtle Beach. This time, though, she admitted herself to a local hospital after the birth of her newborn male child. Well, during the treatment at the hospital, Alyssa delivered a placenta and an umbilical cord, which, according to the hospital, was very consistent of a normal full-term pregnancy. Once again, Alyssa finally admitted to giving birth to a newborn male child in the same apartment in North Myrtle Beach. Alyssa again admitted that the baby was born alive, took multiple breaths after the birth of her newborn child. So police, though, said, get this, police said she disposed of the baby's body in her trash can in her apartment. Alyssa also told investigators that she didn't get any medical treatment, nor did she try to save the newborn's life, right? The jury convicted Alyssa of throwing 2 babies in the trash can moments after she gave birth in 2017 and 2018. Police confirmed Alyssa disposing of the infant's body in a trash can at her apartment complex without seeking any help or notifying authorities. Good Lord. During the investigation, police obtained medical records which indicated that on November 4, 2017, Alyssa was in her 3rd trimester of her pregnancy. That's over 30 weeks of being pregnant. And that the fetus had a healthy heart tone. While during the search at Alyssa's apartment, get this, police found the remains of a male baby who Alyssa finally admitted that it was her newborn son, born on December 2018. So Alyssa showed a little emotion as the verdict was being read to her. And of course she broke down in tears as she spoke to the judge. Alyssa asked the judge to reconsider the sentence, and thank goodness the judge declined to change the sentence. Really? Come on. She was saying, oh, I want to apologize. You know, I'm so sorry. I made a horrible mistake. Well, you think? Alyssa said that she wanted to apologize to her 2 daughters for what she did. Yes, you heard me right. 2 living daughters. She said, I hope one day my daughters will forgive me for what I done. Well, my first thought I can immediately think of, and I highly doubt your daughters will ever forgive you for what you did. You'd have to be a pretty strong Christian person to forgive that horrific act, right? Don't you think? The kicker is, Alyssa's husband, Chris, was at the trial. He spoke after the verdict and told the court that their decision would help bring closure and to start with some healing process between his 2 daughters and himself. Well, I wondered if Chris and Alyssa lived together, because you would think that Chris would have noticed the full-term pregnancy. I mean, I've heard of women being pregnant and having no clue, but really? No one questioned or visited Alyssa, about showing signs of a baby? I mean, how does that happen? It's not like this is your first time that Alyssa was pregnant. She had 2 other living daughters that were born, for Pete's sake. Unless Alyssa was a total crab hermit, wanting to be left alone and far away from people, maybe Alyssa, belonged to some crazy religious cult. Or could it be that she was simply premeditating this whole idea from the get-go. Anyway, during the trial, the jury watched Alyssa's video interview with the police. As the police started questioning Alyssa, she totally denied about being pregnant, right? And then she was like, oh, I would have been excited if I really knew I was actually pregnant, she was telling, the police. Alyssa also said during the interview, I am all about my children. And then she continued with, but I'm really confused at what's happening here. Yeah, it's because you're being caught in a lie. Alyssa talked about having blood clots, and then she said that she had a miscarriage, right? She goes, I don't know how to explain it to you, but I would have known if I was having a baby, Alyssa told the investigators. But minutes into the interview, Alyssa's attitude totally changed, and she started crying uncontrollably. Most of the recorded interview was hard for the jury to hear and understand. But one thing you could hear Alyssa saying and admitting to throwing both the newborn babies into a trash can. I was so scared. I didn't know what to do, Alyssa was saying. I wasn't thinking. I don't have an explanation. I simply wasn't thinking. I was so too scared. Well, Alyssa described how she was in the bathroom of her apartment and giving birth. Alyssa talked about the process of giving the birth, and then she talked about, oh my gosh, I had this huge mess to clean up afterward. Well then, police then asked her if she got rid of the baby because she just simply couldn't handle it anymore. Alyssa just nodded her head, and she finally said yes. Alyssa Dayvault, a North Myrtle Beach mom, was finally convicted of killing 2 newborn babies. She was sentenced to 40 years in prison without parole. Crazy. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the story of Alyssa Dayvault and you found it interesting. There are plenty more crime stories coming from this point on. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. If you have any comments, I highly encourage that you leave them down below. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you soon.